But I want to talk a little bit about who we are and why we exist and distill that down a little bit. And then I also want to talk about what we do and how we do it. And then I'm going to end up talking a little bit about where we are today and where we're going. You know, friends, the kids of City Kids, they don't get a choice. Neither of us do. None of us do. Where we're born, the circumstances to which we're born to, none of our kids have a choice. And when we talk about poverty, and tonight I'm not going to get into the complexity of poverty, I'm not going to talk about all the details and stats, you're not going to hear that from me tonight. Because I think we all realize that a child who's born into poverty is already born into a disadvantage. They aren't even at the starting line yet. That before they even get a chance to pursue their dreams, a chance to see what they are capable of accomplishing, they are set so far back other people. And what we do at City Kids, one of the most important things I tell people is that we impact futures. You see, because what poverty does, more than anything else, of all the stats you hear, all the different things you read about poverty, one thing it does really, really well, it destroys and robs the future of our kids. And so when people ask me, Todd, why do you exist? What is City Kids all about? There's a lot of things we talk about, but I say this. Poverty has stolen the future from our kids, and we as City Kids believe it's time we give it back. And so when we talk about this, we talk about things like we inspire our kids to dream big, we increase their resiliency, we build personal relationships, we create inspirational experiences. And we want to do it for a lot of kids, but we want to do it one at a time. And as we talk about those things, we talk about this idea of the importance of building inspirational or having dreams and having inspirational experiences, taking kids out of their environment. You know, a few years back, I was visiting, as Kat does, in a place where I visit. It was a social housing survey in the North End. And I was just finishing up my home visits, and I was driving by, and I noticed the city was out. Some folks from the city crew was out. They were actually planting some trees on the perimeter of the survey. And I watched as they would dig and open the hole, and they would take this little tree, this little sapling, and then they would place it into the hole, they would pat it down, and then I watched as they would tap this stake into the ground, and then they would wrap this rope around it. Now I learned afterwards a little bit about trees, and I learned that when trees are planted, either by nature or by human hands, when those trees are planted, in order for a tree to be able to grow up healthy and strong, it has to depend on a strong root system. And the further those roots go down, the deeper those roots go down, and the further they spread, the stronger that tree and that trunk of the tree will be, and the more potential it has to grow and to become all that tree is going to be. But what I also learned is that when these trees are planted, that part of the root system and part of how the roots become strong is that those trees will have to feel some of the adversity of the weather. So when the winds blow and the weather comes and the snow flies, and I think there might be some snow flying tonight too after, those trees will begin to bend, those little trees will be able to bend back and forth and back and forth. And as they do that, it actually triggers the roots to go deeper into the ground. And to some extent, to the level of adversity that that little sapling experiences will be the depth of the roots and the strength of its root system. Now, part of the challenge is for some of these trees that when nature blows the seeds wherever they land, sometimes they land in places that are exposed. They land in environments that are a little bit more harsh than other environments. Everybody with me so far? When those seeds land and they take root, and then those winds start coming, because they're so exposed in an environment, instead of just bending, what ends up often happening is they break or they become uprooted. And then they wither and then they die, and never becoming the tree that they were meant to be. Is this making sense to anybody tonight? How many of us are parents? But the story gets more interesting. But then I realized and I understood that when that stake goes down beside that little sapling and we wrap that rope around it, those trees that are out and exposed to the elements, when those winds and storms and rain and all that comes, they will still bend, but they won't break. And those roots will continue to go down deep into the soil. I also began to understand that they don't tie it tight around, because if they tie those ropes too tight around those little trees, when those winds of adversity comes, if they rely too much on that rope, they will never develop the root system they need to be able to stand up to the adversity, to the wind, to the rain, to the storm that will come later. And when that stake gets pulled out, when that rope gets released, the first wind that comes along will topple it over. You know what? That sounds an awful lot like parenting to me, doesn't it? And it's an awful lot like what we do at City Kids. Because here's what we've learned. As City Kids, the children's lives that we enter into, we are not pulling them out of poverty. They're going to grow up in those tough environments. That's not our role. They're going to grow up where they're living. It's not our role. But what our role is, we're the stake and we're the rope. And we're going to stake ourselves beside them. We're going to wrap ourselves around them. And so when that adversity comes, when they get knocked down, when that tough times in life, and you know what? We look at our kids and we say, this is going to hurt. This is going to be tough. Poverty is not fun. It is hard. But they're going to bend, but they won't break. And when they fall down, we're there to pick them up. And sometimes that means we inspire them to dream big until they can be inspired to dream for themselves. And so we inspire big dreams. We increase resiliency. We exist because we believe that if we can stick with them when they're in preschool and be the folks at their high school graduation taking pictures, that maybe, just maybe, we brought them up to the starting line and they have a fair opportunity and chance to achieve their full potential. That's a lot of the work of City Kids. But who are we? You know, when people ask me that question, so that's part of why we exist, but who are we? We say things like this: we are a people of faith. You see, and this is, I'm not going to get preachy tonight, so any of you guys are praying, oh, here he goes, he's going to, bear with me. We are people of faith because here's what we believe. God is with us, He is for us, and He's got a plan for your life. That's the message. We also say that we're a community of hope. And when we say we're a community of hope, it means that we have a confident expectation that our children have what it takes to break the cycle of poverty in their own lives. And again, we believe it for them until they can believe it for themselves. And then we say that we are servants of love, relentless, unconditional love. Friends, there is nothing more powerful than when somebody who's not required to, who doesn't have to, knocks on your door every week just because they love you. That's who we are. That's why we exist. So what do? We build authentic relationships. It's something we're very good at. Because here's something we learned early on, and you might relate to this. If you want to transform the future, if you want to change the trajectory of a child's life, you first have to have influence. And if you want to have influence, you have to have credibility. And if you want credibility, you have to have trust. And trust takes time to build, and it only comes through relationship. And folks, relationship, trust, credibility, influence, we visit kids in our homes every single week so we can build that relationship and earn the right to influence the lives of our kids. We build authentic relationships. What else do? We inspire our kids to dream big dreams, and we do it also by instilling values and virtues. Virtue is not a word that's heard a lot anymore, is it? In fact, virtues are not being taught a lot anymore. And so when we bring our kids out to our Saturday experiences, to all these inspirational experiences, we are also teaching them values and virtues. These last 2 weeks, you know what we've been teaching our City Kids kids? Yes, dream big, but guess what? The world doesn't owe you anything. You want to achieve your dream, you're going to have to work for it. You're going to work hard, and guess what? You're not even at the starting line. Other people have even a more advantage of you. You're going to have to work harder than other people. But dreams are possible. You have to work hard. We've been talking to our kids about having courage. Our preschoolers, we've been talking about how they are capable of helping others. We're building in these pro-social skills even at an early age. We instill values and virtues. Because you know what I believe? We want to inspire them to dream big, but you got to give them a foundation to launch their dreams from. That's what we do. What else do? We remove barriers. When we started City Kids years ago, one of the first things we heard from families was transportation. The reason they don't access community activities is because they can't get there. So what did? We went out and got ourselves some big buses and painted them red, our big red buses, as you heard the boys say tonight. We now have 17 full-size City Kids buses. They're run several times during the week, and we got really good at transportation, picking kids up in their homes. We go all the way up to the mountain now. We go to east to the west of Hamilton. We're in every major community, every major low-income community where our kids are, is where we go. We also know that food is a barrier. When we would assess our kids, you know what they would tell us? I am hungry. And it's pretty hard to learn or be inspired to dream big when all you can think about is that grumbling feeling in your stomach. So we started feeding our kids. We started feeding them more. And now every week our kids are fed. It's one of the first things we do at City Kids and Kinder Kids. When City Youth come for their Wednesday evening meal, the first thing that they're doing is we're sitting down, and we're breaking bread together, and we're having a meal. We've removed barriers. I've said before that City Kids is what I think would have happened if Walt Disney and Mother Teresa decided to get together and start a kids program. Two sides of the same coin. So, where are we? Where are we going? You heard a little bit tonight from Susan about some of the things that we've done. I can tell you by the end of this year, friends, that we will have had over between 1,600 and 2,000 kids that are actively involved each week to some extent or another in the programs of City Kids that are being impacted. And that's counting the intentional direct impact. That's not counting the cousins who are at the house when we go visit, the other kids in the neighborhood, the family members, the uncles that are there. Thousands and thousands of people and kids are being impacted every week. I can also tell you that by the time we get to the end of this year, more volunteers would have invested more than 50,000 hours into the community, into kids' lives, into impacting futures of our kids' lives. I can also tell you that by the time we get to the end of this year, we would have served more than 15,000 meals to our kids, whether it's Saturdays, whether it's on home visits. And one of the things that really excites me is our Summer to Remember program. This past summer, we were able to send 600 kids from the City Kids family to experiences all over the place. Day camps, overnight camps, day experiences, Tie-Cat games. It's one of the most favorite things we do. We have a great partnership with Canadian Tire and Jumpstart, who's been a big supporter to help that to happen. And you know what, I brought a couple things. I love reading the notes. Kids write us notes after about their experiences. And I brought a couple tonight because I just want to share this really quickly. It helps me to remember just how fortunate I am. Here's what our kids write about their experience and what they're thankful for. Picture this. This is what one boy named Austin said. You know what Austin loved most about his camping experience? Get this. I loved running in the woods because I can't run in the woods at home. He's not talking about going into things. He just wants to run in the woods, the things we take for granted. He has no woods at home. And he can't run where he is because of some of the dangers in his neighborhood. Or what about this one? Dalton says, one of the things that I was most proud of this summer was that I did the swim test. It's the first time I've ever passed, even though I've tried so many times before. And then this one, and it was interesting how I found a few kids who mentioned this. You know what they were most thankful for? A bed and food to eat. Kids aren't asking for much, are they? We have 10 programs, 10 activities at City Kids that we run throughout the year. We start when kids are in preschool, and we stick with them so we can be the folks at their high school graduation taking pictures until November comes, and then we can watch them walk this platform. And then we can see a practical way where we can invest in their future education for post-secondary as they go off to pursue their dreams. You know, we talk a lot about futures. We talk a lot about that impact. The truth of the matter is that it is long-term and it is hard work. And when I look at where we're going, I am excited about what the potential of the future holds for the work that we do. As we look ahead to 2020, we've learned a few things. A little while ago, we talked about research that was done for City Kids. We had an outside agency that came in who researched the impact that we were having. Because we were running as long as we had, they wanted to see what success we have. And they were able to come in, and I shared this last year, they were able to come in, they validated what they would call our change theory, that we had found something. That coin of that Mother Teresa, that Walt Disney, that two sides of the same coin, the home visits, the relationships, the inspirational experiences, that together that became a powerful impact that was transforming kids' lives. Along with that, they also gave us some recommendations. Our kids and our families, every season, give us feedback. Surveys that we do. Our kids were telling us what's working, what's not working. We've been distilling all of that down, and we've been charting a new vision for the future. A vision that has us stop doing the things that aren't bringing the impact that we want to see, and reinvesting those resources into things that the kids and the research have been telling us are what's most important for transforming their lives. And so I want to share a few things with you tonight. Number one, here's what we learned. We have learned that this idea of what we do in our production, what we do in our programs, the idea of digital media, the idea of the performing arts, is a really important part of transforming kids' lives. You know, several years ago when I would go visit in the homes of my kids, as I'm pulling up, I would see kids in the park, kids on bikes, not wearing helmets necessarily, but on bikes, on skateboards, on rollerblades, climbing trees. When I visit now, the parks are empty, trees are empty. I usually don't see many kids on bikes. But then I knock on the door, and as the door opens, kids come, and you know what I see? iPads, handheld devices, smartphones, and watching YouTube, and for whatever reason, they're watching cat videos. For the life of me, I have no idea what's so entertaining about cat videos. Our kids are experiencing the world in a brand new way. When the internet came in the 1990s, a new technology introduced into modern society, it has changed everything. And this generation of kids is having to figure out things that not since the dawn of the television, which by the way, Time Magazine said was, you know, articles in Time Magazine when the television came out said was going to be the end of the world, which of course it's not. Whatever your stance is and debate is about social media and digital media, folks, it is how our kids are experiencing the world, it's how they're receiving information. And so as we move towards 2020, what we learn is if we're going to continue to be relevant, that we have got to get into the digital age. We've got to make sure that we're providing content for our kids. So next time I knock on the door, and those kids come to the door with their iPads, they're not watching YouTube cat videos. You know what they're going to be watching? YouTube City Kids videos. And so now as we head to the future, not only do we want to create the live experience, we want to be able to provide digital media so what we do on a Saturday, all the content we create can be watched by our kids in their homes. And by the way, as they're binge watching, one of the things they're going to be learning is, get off your iPad and go outside. And better yet, our vision for the future is the content that we're going to be creating. We want to create our internship program so our youth, and by the way, there's a youth here tonight who cornered me earlier and said, Todd, the only thing wrong with City Kids is that you don't use us enough. So here's our commitment. Our city youth are some of the most amazing graduates that we've seen. We are going to start involving more and more of you guys who are here tonight, and many more. You're going to be involved in creating that content that those kids are going to be watching on YouTube. As we head more into the performing arts, more of the creative arts, we want to be able to access, let our city youth to be involved with doing that, creating that content. Wouldn't it be awesome, folks, if you and your wife are sitting down and going to turn on Netflix to do some binge watching, and as you're scrolling through, you see City Kids television show. Wouldn't that be cool? Produced by the kids who graduated from City Kids. Digital media. We've already begun upgrading our City Kids program. There's going to be more to come in that. Here's what else we learned. Relationships are paramount. We've learned from all of our research, and this is probably nothing new to you guys either, relationships are what matters most. It is the foundation that everything else has to build on. So as we move towards 2020, we are going to focus heavily, investing our resources into equipping people like Kat, recruiting more volunteers like Kat, equipping them more, teaching them more, training, so we can be even better at visiting and building relationships, so we can be even more engaged in the community. Because guess what, folks? Building relationships take time, and there ain't no app for that, is there? There's just not. Friends, we have big dreams. We do. And I've been talking about the future, about the work that we do now is about creating a future, giving our kids their future back. That is our desire. It is long-term, it is hard work. We cannot do it by ourselves. It takes all of us. It's so true. It takes a village to raise a child. It really is true. And let me close with this, as I close every year. We have a big dream. You know what our big dream is as City Kids, and I hope you share it with us. Is that sometime in the not so distant future, that we will see the end of child poverty. That it'll start in Canada and throughout the whole world. That every single child will have equal opportunity to pursue their dreams, to thrive, and to become all they were created to be. I love every moment I have with our kids. And as we work towards the future, I'm hoping that you will join us in this story of transformational change. Thank you so much for your time this evening. God bless.